All right. I think we're live. And I'm sharing my screen. Should all work. Let me know if you can see and hear me. If the sound is okay. It should be fine with my fancy microphone. Yeah, so actually, let's just wait a few seconds until people are here. Okay, stream is healthy. Should be good. Okay. Bonjour. Nuno. Yeah, do use the chat. If you have any questions or anything, I'm gonna do this little thing here, which I've never done before. All right. So yeah, the plan today is to figure out what I'm gonna do next. So that's gonna be quite wild. What I'm gonna do next when it comes to Everyone Hates Marketers and the podcast. So if you don't know, I've just announced that I've left Hotjar to work full time on Everyone Hates Marketers. And let me just grab my thing here. And so the objective the next few weeks is to figure stuff out. I scared you because I have a massive echo. Okay, massive. That's not good. Oh, a second. Okay, there's an echo. Everyone says the same thing. Where is that coming from? Oh, you hear me twice. Okay, so the microphone. I must have the microphone. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my AirPods. Okay. Yep. Okay, so thanks everyone. Everyone said there's an echo. Did you miss anything? You know you didn't. So yeah, turn off my AirPod. So let me know if that's better now. Bonjour, Simon. Perfect. Yes, that's the word I wanted to. That's the word right there that I want you to hear or read. Much better. Okay, now we have something. Right. So we're gathered here today to talk about something quite interesting, right? I've left my full-time job after almost working there for 4 years. I've absolutely loved every second of it. By the way, if you're looking for an open role in marketing or elsewhere, do check out Hotjar. Like the culture has been amazing. I've learned so much. But on the side as well, as you know, I've been working on the podcast, and the idea was always to do something with it, somehow. And yeah, it felt the right time. I don't think there's ever a good time to do this, but I think it wasn't the worst time. Let's put it this way. So yeah, what I want to do, and I haven't prepared for that, so we're going to do that live. I want to figure out the next few weeks in terms of reaching my objectives and trying to get a momentum for it. So let's explain a few things first. I'm just going to write as I speak. I'm just going to, instead of having a white sheet of paper, isn't it better? So as you might know, I've kind of secretly launched a program called Stand the Fuck Out, which is a program to help people to make their product or service radically stand out. And 15 people took a leap of faith and paid $500 to join this, and that's going to start in less than 2 weeks. And the idea here is to get feedback, improve the program, and then do a much bigger launch, public launch, and have the second cohort to run in February, towards the end of February or March. So basically, I mean, if I had to summarize the objective here, and don't expect anything fancy, folks, It's going to be Google Doc all the way. My objective for the next few weeks is to, I would say, to raise awareness. We'll modify that as we go. To raise awareness and I don't want to say signups, because people can leave their email address basically for the next cohort. I would say sign up, raise awareness, and get signups for the next cohort, for the next generation. I don't know if you saw the autocorrect. For the next cohort of stand the fuck out, right? So that's, I think, on overall, that's kind of the big objective for me. What I like to do when I think about strategy and what to do next is I like to do a diagnosis. I've learned that from the book Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. Very, very good book if you want to read about it. So diagnosis is basically kind of a retrospective and a lay of the land of what's going on. So let's just go through this. So what is the firm's name again? If you're or the program, you mean? Stand the fuck out, Alex. Or if you think about the business, is everyone hates marketers. Let me know if that makes sense. So please interrupt me if you have any questions. As you can see, I have the chat open up, so I know what you're asking if you have any questions. So diagnosis is basically lay of the land, what's going on right now, both internally for me, inside the business, the resources that I have, and then externally, the trends and things that are going on and all of that. So first thing, I have an email list, and you're going to be surprised by this, of 2,000 folks. I clean that list every 3 months, so it's growing steadily, but I've never promoted it. I've never promoted it really. Meaning, people know me from the podcast. I run an episode. Or which book did I mention? Haha. So it's called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. It's pretty cool. Okay. So diagnosis. I have an email list of 2,000 folks. Never promoted it, and to be honest, there's no real value to it right now, except to follow some of my updates. Like this morning, I sent an email saying, "Hey, I've left my job," and all of that, and to know what episodes are live, basically. So where do I get the 2,000 email from? Yeah, so it's been, a few of them are from my past business that I had, but the vast majority are folks who listen to the podcast. And they basically, I don't promote it. So what happens is they probably check the website and see, and just sign up on the website. That's basically it, which is why 2,000 is very small, to be honest. Because in terms of what I want to do, do I have any signups number in mind? In an ideal world, what we would have for this next cohort, ideally again, and it's difficult to know at the minute, but to have between 80 and 100 people who are taking part in the program. So if we're talking about actual signups, it's difficult to say because some of them might not be as interested, some of them might not be the right fit. So I'm not too sure. All I know is that in terms of, I think that's a good point. It's to reach. I'm just gonna add that, reach a minimum of 80 customers for the next cohort. And by 80 customers is folks who've paid. So then we can think about it backwards. It's difficult to know at this stage. So I have an email list of 2,000 people. Never promoted it, and the reason why I mentioned email list first is because I think that's going to be the key for my business. Every expert I've talked to, every people I know, they all kind of describe it the same thing. Your email list is kind of the core of what you do, in terms of being able to share value. I think Harry Dry, for example, from marketingexamples.com is just is probably he's probably one of the best in the world at doing this already, and he's such a young guy. I mean, just amazing. So yeah, his newsletter is the product, and there is so much value in it that it just makes sense for people to sign up, right? But I come at it from a very selfish perspective here, which is not good. I come at it in terms of, okay, I need that for my business. The email list is important to launch and scale. So I'm trying to work backwards from that. So to me, this is a big thing. I also have, I would say between, like, it really depends, but between 15,000 to 25,000 listens a month on the podcast, just the podcast pure, and then on YouTube, actually, so you are on YouTube, you can see I also have nearly 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, sorry. And then LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn has been just huge as well in terms of organic reach. Like, just the number of people who see your posts and remember them is just insane. So I have nearly 6,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I mean, I don't really care about the numbers here, but the point is that there is traction there. You can see things are moving. It's quite great to see. And then on Twitter, I have like something like what do I have on Twitter? I think I have 3,000 followers. So you can see, I mean, for someone who wants to launch a like the aim of the business overall, how's the quality of leads on LinkedIn? I mean, I really don't think about it this way. I mean, I have so many people reach out to me thanks to the podcast on LinkedIn every day. I mean, so many. I have like a few every day. And when I do a webinar for someone else, like I've done this morning for the marketing meetup, I get a lot more. And honestly, the people are just the people I want to reach out to. So yeah, I think LinkedIn is the place to go. But for me, and based on my experience, Joseph is asking if I'm French. I wonder what gave it up, really. Yes, I am, of course. Trying to hide it? No, I'm not. I'm really not trying to hide it. Okay, so 2,000, you can see a trend here. I have only 2,000 emails. I have a lot more listens on the podcast, but traditionally, folks who have a model of selling content, via subscription, via courses, programs, coaching, who find scale this way, their asset is usually the email list, and selling through a podcast is tough. I mean, I'm actually using a tool called AdBarker, which is a tiny tool, but I haven't really used it recently. I've tried a few times, but basically allows you to add audio message at the start of every episode, even the past ones. So it updates your RSS feed from the podcast, and you can insert basically ads or messages, even for episodes that have been published 4 years ago, if people listen to them. So that's really fucking interesting. And so, like, that's always kind of been in my mind. We'll talk about that I'll share with you a kind of a quick template I'm going to use to put it together. So yeah, LinkedIn. Could I share? Yeah, I'm going to share that with you. So let me just finish this diagnosis, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So, yes, there is ways to do something with the podcast. There is a way for me to do stuff with LinkedIn, but clearly the place to be, I think the place where I'm going to need to spend a lot more time is on the email list, because that's the only way to reach scale. Thanks, Maria. So what's next? I also have nearly, I think, 160 episodes on the podcast of like huge value. I mean, not all of them are really, really good, but some of them are very, very good. And I have a duty, in my opinion, I have a duty to share this with the world. Meaning, if you've never come across a podcast, I need to find you. I need to find ways to share that value to you. And again, I mean, to be honest, what Harry is doing here is just fucking phenomenal. And I'm not saying I'm going to copy what he does, but it's truly inspiring the way he goes very specific about a particular topic and just share it in very easy to read, easy to understand format with very good visuals. And that's something I haven't done. I've never spent the time to promote podcast episodes. Like, I've relied on you, I've relied on people sharing it and people discovering it naturally. So I've never spent the time to promote podcast episodes, and I have a duty to do so. I think people deserve to hear it. I've done one, like when I was like nearly 4 years ago. I did this one. How Seth Godin will launch a new business with $1,000 and 90 days to spare. Now, granted, this is probably, I don't know if I can ever top that. Like Seth Godin and then a very, very specific thing. And I even paid someone to do illustrations on Medium. I'm going to post it here if you want. And that went berserk. Like, I think it reached the top 10 of the day in Medium. I got a lot of emails from it. And that's what I mean. I think I have a duty to summarize some episodes, but I don't want to do like just a basic summary of, oh, this is John Awib, copywriter, and we talked about X, Y, and Z. I think that would be a mistake. Instead, I want to really go deep dive into one particular topic that we mentioned, usually the step by step, and curate it and create something awesome that stands on its own as an article that I can then share via email, on LinkedIn as a PDF, on Twitter as a thread, and even on YouTube and stuff like that, right? So, but that's part of that's not part of the diagnosis. I'm already thinking of the next step. Yeah, so Simon, yeah, you're right. Could definitely use transcript and all of that. Yeah, exactly. And Maria segmenting. So it's not as if like I have a lack of content, and in fact, it's kind of the opposite, which is very tough in a sense as well, because I don't know where to start. But I'll tell you in the next few seconds what I'm thinking. So Christian is asking, why is the mailing list the best way to reach scale? I mean, it's something that you own, first of all. So people who subscribe to your email list, the email technology is independent of any company. So if YouTube tomorrow decides to change their term of service or remove a YouTube channel, that's it, you're fucked. Podcast is actually a bit similar than email, where no one owns podcast as a technology, and so you can do a lot with it. But it's known that, you know, with emails you can control a lot more. You can really communicate with people. You can do proper launches. It's probably the best way to build rapport. And I don't know of any successful entrepreneur who've built a business like selling content and courses and programs and coaching and all of that, who don't have a strong email list. Obviously, you might have examples here yourself of people who've done that, but of the people I look up to, the people who've done that successfully in the past, it seems like this is the one common denominator. So that's something. There's also a huge trend to me, like there's a huge trend towards podcasting, towards like creators, towards like no code tools. There is it seems like there's a convergence of stuff that is happening where like it gets easier and easier to do all of this, and so it's pushing you in the right direction. There's a tailwind that pushes you. So the other thing is, so I also have to spend time to obviously on the first cohort of Stand the Fuck Out that is starting in less than 2 weeks. Meaning I need to polish the course, run the live calls every week, etc. So it's not like I have 24 hours every day. That's top priority for me. In the past, I've used radical transparency as a concept in my first business a few years ago, and that's something I want to do. So I enjoy doing sharing stuff with the world like I'm doing right now. To be honest, it gives me a huge kick. I love this. Even if it makes me it makes me. I enjoy sharing stuff with the world, and I think that's in today's age, you need to be uh, you you need to act like a media company in a sense, meaning you need to be out there, right? You just can't hide. And I think there's also a trend towards radical transparency, which is great to see on sites like indiahackers.com, or people like sharing revenue and stuff like that. So do I earn from my podcast right now? I do not. I mean, the first time I've made money indirectly from the podcast was through the first cohort of Stand the Fuck Out, where 15 people paid $500 each to take part. But I've also, from the very start, decided I would not do sponsorship on the podcast because it goes against what I wanted to build. And actually, that's something I can say. Sponsorship or ads are out of the question for everyone else marketers. Like, that's not part of the brand. I don't want to have this business model. Joseph, schools create content without an email list, but that's probably not a desirable model. Yeah, but they have other benefits that I don't have. I think they have a huge. I think there's a lot of pull in the market, local, not local, but any business that I know that are doing this as independent, like Company of One. The email list is the thing they rely on the most, and I've seen the power of it, to be honest. Like compare that to reaching out to people and posting it on LinkedIn and then YouTube on the podcast. Sending one email sometimes is just much more powerful. Simon, I'm assuming you also have a wealth of businesses and companies you could be using your content to run marketing training with corporate organization. Yeah, I do. Oh, hey, Kamaran. Good to see you here, man. I do have a lot of contacts, but is it... So this is the question as well. Is it what I want to do? Do I want to do training, bespoke training for companies? To be honest, I don't know if the bespoke is the best use of my time. That's something else. I don't want to sell my time, or at least I'm going to try. To not to for a long time. By selling my time, I mean, I've done that before. I don't want to do necessarily one-to-one consulting or one-to-one coaching or one-to-one training with organization, even though it could be the same. I think I want to have... The idea is to have a bigger impact by doing programs like what I'm doing here, where it's a one-to-many model. So as much as I can, I'm going to try to avoid that. But, you know, that's just the way I want to do it. And I think, yeah, I want to run a company of one. And by company of one, I mean what Paul Jarvis has shared. So if you don't know, do read this book. It's really interesting in terms of like what it is. I'm just going to share it here in the chat. So it's about just staying small, creating a business that is staying small on purpose. And you know, in the past, when I had my first business, I had employees, and the stress that I went through was just not for me. And I realized that this isn't when I enjoy the most. I much rather have, you know, a healthy business, paying myself a good salary, but nothing crazy, and I'll be much happier. And actually, in terms of people that I really look up to, Psychotactics. So that's Sean D'Souza. This guy has been in business for more than 20 years. He's writing articles, and I love what he does. And he's he's selling a few courses on a cohort basis. So that's a massive inspiration to me. So he's selling a cartooning course, headline course, article writing course. For example, like the article writing course starting in May 2022. And he's already opening it up for people to join the waiting list. I mean, he's on another level. And obviously, Andre Chaperon and Sean Twig, who have a business called Tiny Little Businesses. And again, I mean, they sell courses on an enrollment basis, and they have a model that is very similar to the one I want to emulate. They don't have employees, and they sell extremely good expert content. So check them out. So I want to run a company of one. What else do I have going on? So actually, I think I wrote a few things down. Yeah, that's my problem, folks. I write so much on white pieces of paper. I just get lost in my thoughts sometimes. One second. Right there. Oh shit. Yeah, I can't find it. So I think the other thing is the why behind the business is to fight marketing bullshit. And after a lot of introspection, the reason, what I believe the most about this concept, and when I dig into the core and understand what's going on and why I believe in this so much, is I think the core of it is the best way to fight marketing bullshit is to create a radically different product, or at least to update your product or service to be radically different, something that is so good that a pocket of people can't help but hear from you and buy from you, right? And to me, that's what it is. So that's also something I've been passionate about, talking about it for years and years and years, on positioning and all of that. And when I think back about what I do best, what I enjoy the most, this is what it boils down to. I've done that multiple times at Hotjar, outside with the podcast. Creating something radically different and teaching people to do that is kind of where I want to be. And I think this is one of the big diagnoses that I need to be very open about and aware about, is the fact that I am not known as the radical differentiation guy yet. Meaning I'm known as the the marketing podcast guy who swears and who's no bullshit and who interviewed Seth Godin, but I think I've hidden myself for a long time behind my full-time job and the guest on the podcast. And I think, to be honest, that's the biggest, to be completely transparent, this is the issue. I mean, not an issue, but this is something I want to work towards for, because I'm not going to get 80 people who pay a good amount of money for the next cohort of Stand the Fuck Out, which is an 8-week program, very much like it's like an alt MBA, an alt MBA type thing. Absolutely, Alex. Yes, bonjour, yeah, and yeah, exactly. I'm known as a French guy who has a marketing podcast, and that's it. And I think that's a big issue that I need to work towards. So I want to make sure I raise and I share as much as possible on the topic, because as this is the antidote of fighting marketing bullshit, 100%. And so that's the why, in a sense. And I don't want to go full Simon Sinek here, but actually in this case it's pretty relevant, isn't it? So this is kind of, I think this is the next step for me. I want to be known as someone who knows his shit when it comes to radical differentiation. So to get it right, diagnosis is about writing your strengths, the why, and where do you stand right now. Diagnosis is the lay of the land. It's basically everything that is going on that might prevent you from going where you want to go, or that actually you could use to go where you want to go. That's kind of the diagnosis. And honestly, a part of the diagnosis as well is sometimes it's like looking outside. So what are the forces that might prevent me from doing this. I mean, thinking about it as well, I don't have an unlimited runway financially. What I mean by this is that, you know, I've left my job, I've saved a lot of money through a few different means. 15 people paid $500 for the program, but if I want to leave without worrying too much about money, you know, I don't have unlimited runway. I need to make the next cohort happen, to be able to sustain that. So that's kind of what the diagnosis is about. I'm gonna give it another go and try to find the little sheet of paper. And actually it makes me think of something else. I don't think there is no better time to talk about this topic of radical differentiation. What I mean by this is, like, clutter is everywhere. It's more and more difficult for people to be noticed. I mean, everyone can, with a laptop and a brain and internet connection, can create a business tomorrow. I mean, standing out is extremely tough, and it's getting only tougher. And so I think there is a strong push towards this direction. And also I think there's a good trend towards positioning as a discipline. Even though radical differentiation is not exactly like positioning, it's a specific subcategory that is a bit more risky, a bit more out there. But April Dunford, for example, who's a specialist in the topic, has really talked about it a lot recently, and she's a massive inspiration. And thanks to her, a lot of people are talking about it, right? So that's good. And again, I don't want to say I'm not a positioning expert. I want to position myself as the radical differentiation and helping people fight marketing bullshit this way. So it's slightly different. But again, I think there's a push towards it throughout. And she talks about it in the context of tech. So it's not exactly the same thing, because to me, it's really helping everyone to stand out, radically stand out. So I don't think there's a better time to talk about this topic, which is good. That means there is tailwind in my favor here. So let me just give another go towards this fucking thing. If you have any questions, drop them here. Don't expect anything crazy fancy, but it should give us a bit more. Material. Aha, I got it. All right. So I think I've covered everything I had in mind. So this is kind of the diagnosis. This is where I'm at. I also have good connections in the business world. I don't know if that's fucking saying, but meaning, thanks to the podcast, I've built trust and rapport with people who are much smarter than me, who have email lists themselves, you know, who have communities, etc. I mean, this morning I was speaking at the marketing meetup, which went very well, by the way, on radical differentiation. So that's one thing else, if you want to hear. There you go. Let me check if everything is going fine here. Yep. Okay. So that's another thing. Like, when I started my first business 5 years ago, I didn't have any of that. I didn't have good connections and whatnot. So having those people available to me for help is massive. Meaning, you know, I can ask them for a favor every now and then, and all of that. But like in retrospect, looking at this diagnosis, and again, I do that every time I feel overwhelmed. I don't know what to do next. I use this kind of method. I think I have a lot that I can do, right? But the biggest hurdle, in my opinion, is the fact that I'm not known as this radical differentiation guy, and I can't expect 80 people to pay for this next cohort without sharing shitloads on the topic. So, like that's kind of the issue, in my opinion. The other issue is I have to build an email list, a stronger email list, so I can reach out to people on a regular basis. It's like the podcast is one thing, and I'm going to share more updates on there. So the plan would be probably to do one episode as an update every 2 weeks or something like that. But translating people listening to a podcast to action is tough, right? So I think the next step would be the email list. So finding ways for them to reach this email list. My email list is very weak. I mean, it's at the minute I've created kind of those lessons on how to become a confident marketer gets result, and you get 7 days of stuff, and it's good enough, but it's not aligned. And actually, that's another thing. My current email address, my current email list, my current email course does not cover radical differentiation as a topic. I need to streamline everything from start to finish so they talk about the same thing. Alex, I know you covered the importance of understanding human psychology. Is there a way to go one step further? Perhaps regularly partner with psychologists and psychologists create a true human-centered marketing approach. Slavika, for the course, maybe smaller groups and higher tuition fee. Yeah, absolutely. So first, Alex, yes, absolutely. So, and again, this is a diagnosis part. So let's absolutely keep thinking, please, of next ideas. But absolutely, there's a huge opportunity here, and I'm going to share it in the next few seconds. Slavika, yes. I mean, the aim for the first cohort was to get my foot in the door and see whether people would trust me enough to pay a good sum of money for something I could offer. And yes, it's been validated. That first hypothesis has been validated, but they only paid, and I want to be careful here, $500 each. Programs like that are super intense, super specialized, like the ones I'm running, go for 4 times, 8 times, 10 times more especially because there is a live element to it, and especially because it's mostly for folks who are like business owners, founders, folks who are able to influence the business. So yes, the next cohort of Stand the Fuck Out will be more expensive than $500, that's for sure. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I don't know exactly how much, but that's the other thing, right? And actually, another guy that I really look up to is David Perel, and I think some of you have already said that I should check them out and what he does. And it's a writing course, right? And actually, he has a few sites for the same thing, which is a bit fucking confusing. So here you go. Yeah. Now, guess how much that's going to be. So it's going to be... there is basically 2 live sessions, so 16 in total, with 4 workshops. So it's mostly, I think everything is live basically, which is quite interesting. Now it's $4,000, all right? And again, this guy has much more clout when it comes to, he's done that multiple times. I think it's cohort number 6, so he has the authority and to charge that much. And I'm not planning to charge $4,000, but yes, raising tuition fees is going to be one of the key to make a sustainable living. But again, to be able to do that, I can't expect people to trust me enough to pay a high amount without proving that I know my shit first. Because I know my shit. I know a few people listening to the podcast can get the hint that I know my stuff when it comes to radical differentiation. But I need to be way more way more obvious about it. Yeah, don't Google Stand the Fuck Out. Actually, the place where I'm storing it at the minute, which is just the waiting list for the next cohort, is here. So don't Google it. Do not Google it. So yeah, I think there's the gap is here, in my opinion, and the gap is the fact that I've been so silent for a long time that I haven't been able to share my expertise. I've been leaning on other guests, and that's the way to fight marketing bullshit is through radical differentiation, and I haven't really proven that I know how to do this. So that's, I think, in a summary, that's kind of the problem, right? That's, if you have to think about it, this is what prevents me from reaching this objective. This is the biggest hurdle. But I have a few things I can lean on, right? I can lean on the content I have. I can lean on the expertise that I have myself. I can lean on the people that I know. I can lean on the trends that are going in the right direction. Like the tailwind is clearly in the right direction for this. And I also, something interesting, out of the people following what I do, it's funny, there's a third split in 3 ways. So there is a third of people who want to grow their existing business, a third who want to launch something, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean their business, but it could be their side project. And then the rest, which is a third, obviously, who want to grow in their job. Most of them being in-house marketer. And honestly, I'm not too sure. I need to deep dive into those folks a bit more. I need to talk to a few of you to understand what's going on. So let me actually see what you mean by stand the fuck out. I hope it's not. It's all right. It's fine. In fact, there is nothing that really ranks for it. So that should be, it's like everyone hates marketers at the start, nothing ranks for it. So I think it's fine SEO wise. So I know that because I asked the question on the site, right? What's your goal? Find a marketing job actually is very, 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 very few. So I didn't even write it down. So I need to understand, depending on those goals, who are the different people, and stand the fuck out as a program is really for people who are able to influence the product they're selling or the service they're selling. And it's also difficult to get value at the minute in the way I've built it if you haven't created your business or service just yet. So that's also something I don't know enough about them when it comes to radical differentiation. And actually, when I do the pre-launch, I just sent an email to my email list about this early access version of Stand the Fuck Out. And what was interesting to see there was a few people wanted to apply, but they didn't fit the initial thing. And actually, let me just show you the copy that I've used a few times on the podcast, on the email list. So it was specifically for creators, entrepreneurs, service providers who want to radically stand out and attract a customer they love. Let me just go down because I think So this is what I said at the end. It's a great fit if you're a solopreneur or founder of a small company selling products or services online in a saturated market, or a marketer who can basically influence the product. Because the problem with this method is that if you can't influence the product, it's very difficult for you to get anything out of it. And I also said if you're unlikely to be a fit if you have not started your business, because you need to kind of use your customers and interview them. So it wasn't perfect. So I just decided to say no to them at the start. And then you're a marketer, like an in-house marketer who can't influence the product you're selling. And then I said radically differentiating a company that dominates its field can be counterproductive as well. So my point here is that I basically said no to nearly two-thirds of the people who follow. And that's fine, right? You can't please everyone, and that's one of the lessons. But in the back of my mind, I also think that I have a duty to serve them, and if they struggle with radically differentiation, I need to think about how to serve them. Maybe I can help them to radically stand out when it comes to the content they create, or maybe through their personal brand to find a different job, or to get better buy-in from their boss on it. And then on the other side, maybe I can teach them how to inspire their boss and challenge it and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure yet what the next cohort is going to be and the type of people I want to follow, I want to attract. And the other thing is folks who have their own business, who are like CEOs, founders, consultants, freelancers. They can invest more money because it comes from their business money, and it's much easier for them to put money into that. So while people working on a job, they are less willing to put that amount of money on it. So something to think about. Anton, hey man, good to see you here. I mean the swear word, I think it's definitely not for everyone, and I'm making it like that on purpose. Might change the name if it's a big issue, but I've never heard anyone saying, "Hey, I can't pay for that because there's a swear word in it." And they can fucking they can blur it out. It's fine. I can always change the name later, but yeah. And again, that's part of radical differentiation. I need to be willing to say, listen, if you're really that bothered about a word in an invoice, then not too sure I want to do business with you. Exactly. So, but that's something, I'm not too clear on this. I don't really know. I know 100% how to help you to radically differentiate if you can influence the product and if you have a business already, whether you're a consultant or not. But yeah, if you're an in-house marketer who don't have influence over the product, or if you just have an idea of launching something, I don't know. I need to find ways to help you, or I need to create a secondary product that is specifically for them. Those are the options. Yes, I can create a community like the David Gerhardt one. So that's the other thing, right? So we'll talk about that in the next few minutes. It's the aim first and foremost is to deep dive into that, and it's part of radical differentiation. I also need to be aware of my strengths. I'm going to write it down because that's a good point. Community management is not my strength necessarily. It's not that I don't enjoy it, but I struggle to find the right way to go about it. And I think to mention a few people who don't do this, Psychotactics, Sean D'Souza, he has a community and a forum for the last fucking 20 years. But for example, Andre Chaperon used to have a community, now they don't because it's too time consuming, they don't enjoy it. But there is a model there when it comes to subscription for sure. The thing I don't want to do though is I don't want to just copy what Dave Gerhardt or someone else is doing. I want to really find out what you struggle with as a community, and maybe do something slightly different where I can really add a lot of value. I was thinking potentially doing live podcast episodes only for the members. I was thinking of maybe offering PDF summaries of the episodes, doing live monthly Q&As only for the members. And it doesn't have to be a forum or community behind it per se. And I need to figure that out, to be honest. I'm not too sure about it. I'm not too sure about this community aspect. I never really had the time to run one before. We have a very tiny community on Facebook that I've tried out. I have 300 people on it, which is amazing, without really promoting much. But it's not super active, and that's my fault. And it's because I struggle with it a bit. I'm not too sure how to tackle it just yet. So this is where we are, folks. I think it's a good summary of what's going on. And again, I think the biggest thing is the fact that there's a disconnect between where I want to be and what I want to teach and what I know I'm good at and what people think about right now when they think of me, which is fine. So that's the next part. Can I share with you Can I share with you this? Yes, I can. So, so the way to do it, folks, is Slices Consulting used to be my own business. Okay, so you're gonna create it and then you can just make a copy of it. Stewart, hey, good to see you here, man. What job will people hire stand the fuck out to get done? To make their product or service radically stand out. That's the job. Then the extra job could be so that they can find better customers and all of that. But the job that I directly help them to do, which is written here, radically stand out from a sea of competitors and attract customers they love and respect. So it's quite specific to folks who have an audience and all of that. But I know there is something there when it comes to folks who are in-house marketers and want to influence their organization to be more radically different. I also know there is something there for people who want to create their project or business, but they don't know where to start. Okay, you're interviewing me now. So what triggered them to seek out help getting that done? I think being frustrated about, but that's something I want to dive deeper in. Like what triggered them, the trigger is the fact that they know they can do better. They don't know what to do next. They think a lot of people teach them why it's so important to be different, but they don't know how. And they want someone to push them. They want a method, something they can use and reuse to do that, because the other alternatives out there don't give them this solution. But again, and I like the fact that you put me on the spot, because that's something I need to go deeper into. So actually, so the way I like to put them together, that's something I've shared years ago on Forget the Funnel, is to think in terms of gaps. What are the gaps preventing me from what are the gaps preventing me from reaching this objective? Right, that's kind of the thing here. So gap number one is the fact that I think people don't can't even fucking write. Perceive the radical differentiation expert. The other gap is I don't know enough about my people when it comes to the problem, trigger, job to be done. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've talked to a lot of you. I know the issues, or else I wouldn't have been able to sell 15 tickets to something I've never done before, or at least at this scale. So it's not as if I have no fucking clue, but it feels like I have some gap when it comes to how can I help. And I think I'm gonna write down in between, like in-house marketers versus like entrepreneurs versus people who want to launch something. I got a lot of emails from people like that, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do much. Okay, so that's the gap, and I think the last one is quite easy. Yeah, you're right, Stuart. And this is a very selfish exercise I'm doing here. And, but you need to do it sometimes. You need to think of yourself, what you want to do and whatnot. But this is clearly very, very, this is very selfish. But trust me, I'm going to talk to a lot of people. That's going to be one of the plan. Definitely talk to a lot of people to really recenter on the customer. I didn't really have a lot of time before because I was working full time, but now it's time to do this. So the last the last gap, in my opinion, is I'm not using the awesome, I'm gonna say it's awesome, the awesome content produced through the podcast. Like, meaning I fucking ship the episode and then that's it. I don't do anything with it, and I have a duty to do this. I have a duty to fucking share it to the world, especially the episodes that relate to radical differentiation, which is, funny enough, a lot of them. You know, that's kind of that was a big thing for me. A lot of them are touch on the topic. Okay, let me take a little break here because I need some water. I did this webinar recently where I had a cowboy hat. That was the theme of the thing. It was the Wild Wild West thing, and they sent me this hat over the post. Yeah. All right. Okay. So we have 3 gaps in front of us. I think that's a good summary of what's happening here. In one sentence, what would be the strategy, right? What would be the thing we're going to do to solve those gaps, to bridge those gaps, to do something about it? Don't have to write it down now. I think we can do it later. So MPC, most profitable customers. So who are my best customers? What's my value prop? Who influenced them? And then that's kind of basically a funnel. Like, strangers, how do you attract strangers? How do you make people go to your website? Blah, blah. That might not be super relevant 100% of the time, but get it there. So, my best customers. Haha. And you see, that's kind of the big issue I have right now. What I mean by this is, I'm actually not too sure. Putain. I'm actually not too sure about my best customers, and I think that's gap number 2. I'm not too sure yet. I'm discovering stuff. I've talked to a lot of you. Listen, I know who's listening to the podcast. I know you. I've talked to a lot of you. I kind of know roughly what you struggle with, but I don't know who are my best customers. I don't know who the people are more likely to pay for my stuff, and even pay a subscription of $10 a month, or pay for a book that basically surfaces the top 100 quotes or insights from the podcast. I actually don't know just yet. Sofiane, in my opinion, the main gap is that you've been seen as a host, not a value provider. Yes. I think that's a better way to say it. I'm going to write it down. Perceived as a host, not a value provider. I mean, to my defense, and I know it's subtle, but I wouldn't be able to talk to those people and ask them those questions if I didn't know anything about it. But it's clear that because I cover more topics than just radical differentiation, because I don't talk about myself and I kind of hide myself behind those experts, it's gonna be, I need to make a conscious effort to reach that gap. But yeah, I think we're saying roughly the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not too sure yet. And the value proposition right now is to, the core of the podcast, the core of what I want to do next is to help you to fight. I mean, you don't give a shit about fighting marketing bullshit. It's to radically stand out in a sea of competitors. And again, not the best just yet, but because I'm figuring stuff as I go. That's kind of what I want to do. That's how I want to help. I want to help folks to make their product or service radically stand out, and even themselves radically stand out, so that they don't struggle to acquire the right customers. They don't struggle to, and they have fun in the process. That's kind of the journey from start to finish. So this portion is about who influenced them. So, I mean, I think I have a high proportion of people who listen to podcasts, obviously. So they listen to marketing podcasts. Something I wanted to go deeper into, marketing/business podcasts, a lot. I think I've asked in the past who influenced them, but if I have to summarize their influence, I think marketing podcast is out there for sure. You mentioned, someone mentioned Dave Gehart, for example. I mean, this can be the one of them as well. But again, I think it's pretty clear here that I need to do more work when it comes to their influence as well, and who influenced them and who do they look up to. And it's funny because the people who influence them tend to be the host on my podcast as well, the guest on my podcast. Obviously, because that a lot of people discover it through that, right? So again, need to do more on that. Mark Spector, yes. Majority of the time you're engaging with others, the users don't get enough of your point of view. Absolutely. And that's why we are here, right? And I think this is the biggest gap of all, right? So it's time to turn things around a bit, right? So I think it's time to think of those ideas. Okay. And that's why I want to hear from you right now. I'm going to sit back a bit. How would you fill that gap if you were me? So you have all of the stuff we talked about here at our disposal. How would you bridge that gap? What would you do? Hey Louis, on gap number 3, maybe you could outsource summary bullets from podcasts, organize as learning from experts for your course, and even ask some experts to add to your course. Absolutely. That's one of the goal. As are Louis, your best customers are folks who have vanilla marketing and positioning, but they have to self-select for this program. Yeah, actually, I'm going to write that down a bit. They have vanilla marketing / positioning that doesn't stand out from the rest, so they struggle. But I'm not too sure yet because I think I need to go a bit deeper into, depending on their goal, right? If you want to launch your own business versus if you have a business already, this is what I mean. I think the best customers are going to be folks who have their own business somewhat, and I need to find ways to give value to the rest as well. Sofiane, you should look at the way a guy called George Gammon grew. He hosts a lot of figures in the macro world and also provides his own knowledge. He started less than a year ago and now he's killing it. Okay. Let's check him out. George Gammon. Macro. Okay. I don't fucking know what macro is. But hey. I guess we're gonna learn. Build wealth and strive in a world of economic insanity. Okay. So he has a huge YouTube channel. He has a podcast. So he has a podcast. He does live Q&A. What does he do? So every fucking week. Every week. On YouTube. Okay. Okay. So it seems like YouTube is, for him, the central piece. Huh, Sofiane?
Hello, my name is George Gammon.
Okay. So he has 187,000. And he's using it. Okay. So he's doing a lot of video on his own. And does he feature people? How does he do it? Is it an interview?
Jim Rickards this thing.
No, so it's on 15 minutes. Yeah, and he's sharing it. Yeah, okay. So what he does here is, that he curates other people's work, but he's putting himself there in front and center with his whiteboard. Yeah. Interesting. I'm not following at all this world, but it's interesting to get someone else's perspective. So, yeah, I mean, it looks a bit scammy to me. I mean, not scammy. I know it's investing and shit like that, but it clearly for him, the business model is YouTube at the top of the funnel, and then he sells. Let's see, start here. What does it tell you? And then he sells you something on top. Private forum, a newsletter. Fuck, he has a lot of shit. Podcast. Okay, 7-day trial, only $1. The Rebel Capitalist Pro. So, newsletter, premium, live Q&A, private forum on Discourse, actually, discourse.com, and he charges $57 fucking a month. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, thanks for that. Interesting. I'll check him out later. Yeah. So Cameron saying, what I've seen from David Perel, Tiago Forte, Kehai is they share openly. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think this is the biggest issue, right? As a gap. This is the biggest thing. Is bridging the gap. And bridging the gap by giving as much fucking value as possible on radical differentiation. I'm just going to write it down. Value as about radical differentiation. So I actually have a confession to make. I mean, a confession. I actually had a chat with Mark Ritson. So Mark Ritson has been on the podcast before. Fuck. Do check him out. He's one of the best marketers in the world, teaching the mini MBA in marketing. And so that was published in 2018. And we had a 2-hour chat last week. That's going to be released soon. And we talked about what I'm going to do next and whatever. And he said, to go back to this, he said, I'd love for you to do shorter episodes, like 15-20 minutes, breakdown case studies of companies or products or artists or whatever doing, like being radically different, and you to analyze it and share the method they use and what they do, what they don't do. And then on top of that, inviting the person and make them share the behind the scenes and say, hey, actually, yeah, you've noticed that, but we've done that for this reason, and getting more in depth. And actually, one thing I want to do, see you later, buddy. What I want to do with the podcast, and actually, I don't really like new visitors. It could be new visitors, listeners. One thing I want to do in the podcast is to interview people who are like not necessarily just marketers in marketing, right? Like not necessarily just this bubble, because people who create shit that radically stand out are not just marketers. You have this crazy, I don't remember his name, so there's this guy, not him. Yes, you see, that's why Google is the best product out there. Michael O'Hare. So this guy is 81, was awarded a Michelin star in 2015 for a restaurant he created the year before, something like that. But look at his face. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. But like, and his menu is so, and it's not a fucking wig. This is not a fucking wig. His menu is so fucking out there. And that's the type of people I want to talk to more, you know, because they have their own story and they have way to do stuff that are just fucking amazing. And like, I want to talk to the people like this, right? And I want to feature people like that. So my point here, I'm just going to write it down. I'm going to put it here. Oh, shit. I want to like get out of the bubble. An interview. More mavericks outside of marketing. And like, because there's so much lesson there. And another thing, actually, I had the pleasure to talk to someone, talk to a Broadway show producer who's won so many awards recently, and he's known for his marketing stunts to produce his shows. And fuck, this conversation was fucking amazing as well, because we touched on the topic, but not from a marketing bubble perspective, really from a like another perspective, but still talking about it, if you know what I mean. So I think that's going to be one of the key. But to go back to Cameron's point, I need to share everything I fucking know. So I think that's going to be the strategy. And one thing that I mentioned with Mark Ritson is what I told you about. So something interesting would be to for people who sign up to the email list, like provide a free course on radical differentiation. I also need to go myself to the edge of the map and fucking go for it and be more radically different. My profile picture on LinkedIn is boring. There's a lot of stuff that are just boring and that are not exactly like me. So I also need to like double down on the brand, so it becomes its own case study. Stuart, love that idea of looking, yeah. Those conversations could become your free content, then your pay content becomes a tear down of their stunt where you explain why it worked. Exactly, I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? So the case studies. So then for returning, provide a course on radical differentiation. So, and the course, you can see the funnel. You double down on the brand, become its own case study. I share the best specific stories on radical differentiation from guest and myself. And when I say share, like I'm talking about like really doing like what Harry Dry is doing when he publishes an article. He summarizes the shit out of it. I mean, he creates something awesome, and then it goes on LinkedIn, it goes on Twitter, on YouTube, and it creates something very specific for the platform so that more people discover him. So just to show you, the latest is done, more than 2,000 likes, and a lot of people, you know, commenting and shit. He basically repackaged his article into a PDF that you can scroll through. So he's doing the best of each platform, which is kind of the plan here, I would say as well. That's what I mean by sharing. So the best specific stories on radical differentiation. So I would analyze what guests have shared in the past. I would come up with new examples as well, and stuff like that. I would, on the podcast, then I would also have like, you know, I don't want to dilute it. So I want to keep doing one weekly podcast that is valuable. I want to also start sharing updates about the business. Well, this marketing strategy, that we don't know if it works, first of all, because that's just me coming up with it as I go, and it's only specific for me. And you can see, like, it's really, really specific to the diagnosis we're putting together here. Like, that's just very, very specific to my situation right now. So the only thing you can copy potentially are the ideas and the plan, like the way it's structured, but in terms of the rest, there's nothing else really. I think you need to figure that out. That's the job, you know? So double down on the brand. I need to radically differentiate myself, sharing the best specific stories, case studies, give a lot of value, provide a free course, potentially. And then I think the idea of, and then you provide a course on an email course, a free email course, for example, on radical differentiation, and then followed by an evergreen newsletter. I'm going to share what it means. An evergreen newsletter being like something automated when people sign up that still gives something a lot of value for free. So they sign up to the course that teaches them a lot, and then it's followed by maybe case studies on the topic, examples, like curated lists of episodes, stuff like that. And then maybe actually, Kumaran, if you can share what you said, they give away a ton of free values ahead of each launch. It would be interesting to know what specifically they do. And I think I need to actually need to sign up to their stuff to see what it's doing. Because here's the model. Yeah. So it's doing 7 lessons you need to write online. So it's talking about the topic of the course. You sign up to it. So I'm going to do it now and see what it does later on. So yeah, providing a free course on radical differentiation, followed by an evergreen newsletter on the topic, right? On the same topic. And once you sign up, I mean, here it's like new customers ready at this stage. Thanks, Stuart. See you later. So yeah, so double down on the brand, sharing more specific stuff on radical differentiation. I also need to, I'm going to put that here, talk to as many of my listeners as possible to solve that gap. And we're solving that gap here. So sharing the best specific stories on radical differentiation from a guest and myself, like doubling down on that, being perceived as being perceived as the expert on radical differentiation. So I need to share much more value there. Getting out of the bubble, interview more maverick outside of marketing on the topic, sharing updates about the business, being transparent like I'm right now, providing a free email course on radical differentiation, posting on LinkedIn. I mean, that's implied here, but LinkedIn is a big thing at the minute. And yeah, I think one key here is going to be to really talk to people who are really famous. I love to get a hold of those really like famous folks who've been there, done that, and outside of the marketing bubble, getting some intros to awesome guests, promote the shit out of it, and keeping promoting the stand the fuck out thing. So yeah, providing a free email course, like free, not necessarily course of material on radical differentiation, giving away as much as I can. And I think then it's about like promoting the cohort. I think at this stage that's pretty much it. But we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? nearly an hour and a half. So I'm just going to reread diagnosis to see if we haven't missed anything. So email list, doubling down on the podcast. Yes. I need to go on other people's podcasts. Go on other people's podcasts. Webinars, etc. I've also been thinking of reaching out to people with the email list that I know and say, hey, here's the free course on radical differentiation. You can promote it to your people. Follow it. It's free. I think that could be something else as well. Share the course. It doesn't have to be a course per se, but something else. Share the course on with partners, something like that. Okay, so using the 160 stuff. Obviously, what's not there is the fact that I'm going to spend a lot of time learning so much from this first cohort of Stand the Fuck Out that it's going to be fucking great. So that's implied. I'm gonna be much smarter at the end of this. Acting like a media company, so being more visible. We said that, right? So doubling down on the brand, sharing more stuff more regularly, going on other people's podcasts, sharing the course with partners, getting out of the bubble, interviewing mavericks. Without spending my time. Connection, interview, yeah. I think we're good. I think it gives me a bit more clarity on what to do next, right? Which is that. Simple as, in a sense. So I'll do another session whenever, soon enough, on something else. Maybe an update on this. I'll figure that out. If you're curious about anything, let me know now. Like if you have any specific question, anything you'd like me to jump into and share with you. And I've just missed that. Do you have any resources for estimating the business potential or maybe target market size? I do. What's his name? It's the founder of Sumo. What's his name? CEO. Oh, I'm raging, I don't remember his name. Noah Kagan, okay. So Noah Kagan wrote something. Yeah, I think he wrote it here. Yeah, model. Boom. Rahul, hey Louis, these are a few pointers, but I think I can add value to you. You do have a lot of quality content which people are not familiar with. Using snippets of your content and uploading it on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can send summaries of your podcast or email, which you collect through LinkedIn and YouTube. Yeah, agreed. No, I think that's pretty much reviewing other marketing strategy finances to talk about and your take on it, like case studies. Yeah, okay. I think we're on the same page. Let me just make sure I don't. So yeah, my issue with summaries, like, I'm not a big fan of summaries because you lose the essence. I'd much rather extract a specific topic inside an interview and go at it full force instead of just trying to summarize an episode that sometimes touches on a few topics. But I think we are pretty much on the same page here. YouTube is another fucking beast altogether. I mean, I would need to produce videos and I need to figure that out. I think that's a good point. Because I have like nearly 5,000 people on here, which is fine. What can I do? It's a channel on its own. It requires resources on its own. I don't know shit about video creation. I don't have the money to spend that much on it to produce it. So I need to find a way to. Do I just double down on? I create an article that is a very, very nice summary analysis of a way to radically stand out or something on the topic, I repurpose it for LinkedIn, on Twitter. I ask people inside my email list like to promote it once in a while. Like I'm making sure that it reaches more people. I go on other people's podcasts to talk about this. I get very, very kind of trying to get more famous people on the podcast and really go at it 100%, reaching to Mavericks. Yeah, so you're right. My YouTube videos are basically audio format. Collaborate with other YouTubers who are into video essay would be an interesting collaboration. They bring the aesthetics, you bring the content. Yeah. Okay. Just gonna write that down for posterity. That's a very good idea, Rahul. Thank you very much. Martin, it's great to follow your way of thinking. Well, you're welcome. I'm sorry if it's a bit of a rambling. But another thing I like to do sometimes, just to make sure I'm not forgetting stuff. And it's a bit late for me now. It's like 4 p.m. and I've been at it for a long time. So I'm a bit brain dead. So we'll probably do another fucking live soon. Yeah, there you go. Just wanted to find an image for this. Fuck. There you go. Okay. Just the type of channels available to you, right? And I can't do everything, so maximum 2 or 3, like at the very so podcast is one, and then content marketing, which is kind of part of it, and speaking engagement is probably it. Did I forget anything else? I'm not gonna do any SEO or anything like that. It's not gonna be the point. Whoa. I think I went on the wrong website. I love to see the interviews as actual videos. Yeah, I'm using a tool called Squadcast, which only does audio recording to keep the quality super high. So I've done a few, like we said, Godin, I post the video, the live thing, but yeah, I need to figure that out. Yeah, I mean, YouTube should be my focus. I mean, the podcast is also, I shouldn't forget the podcast, need to be careful here. So I can't just go all in on YouTube. Yes, it's a great way to reach out to a lot of people, but again, I don't have any strength in it. I don't know much about it. I know it's going to take a while to create videos as opposed to other stuff, and I know it will be easier for me to repurpose a podcast episode into other types, specifically articles, and repurpose them for LinkedIn, Twitter, stuff like that. But yes, I think once the process of making sense of something, turning it into an article that can be repurposed, I can then do it on YouTube, I suppose. But it's a lot of work, right? And I need to figure out what I can do best. Because again, like Sean D'Souza is not on YouTube. He's just writing articles. I think Dave Perel, if I'm not mistaken, is not on YouTube. So it's easy to find. I mean, here you go. I'm going to contradict myself. Am I not? He has less, you see, like he has less subscribers than I do. Not that it matters too much, but he's publishing a few interviews here and there. But like, nothing fucking crazy. Obviously what he's selling is writing online, so obviously that's what he does. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, but what we know are those gaps, and I think we're all clear on this. So just need to get to work towards them and fucking get it done. Yeah, it's 4 p.m. now, my time. So thanks so much everyone for following. And like, if you have any more ideas, reach out to me. It's Louis at everyone hates marketers.com. If you have any questions, ideas, I'm all ears. Any people I should talk to, any people who are doing it great, let me know. All right. But yeah, if you have anything before I go, I'll give you a few seconds. I'm just gonna take a drink of water because there's a bit of delay in the stream, it seems. All right, this is it then. Thanks so much, everyone. And I'll try to do that soon again. It's been a pleasure.